But otherwise, hey, folks, the Cloud Talk Show is back. And we have over here, and I believe we're not seeing this very well. We might be seeing it in a strange way. We have very special guest, Joel Oleson, for not old. He's actually young at heart, but old guy traveler, old guy computer guy like us, maybe younger than us, I think, at this point. You know, we're the old guys over here, right, Larry?
That's not hard. I mean,
that's
yeah,
not
that's
hard.
not hard.
That's right. It's not hard.
But
Joel, hey,
thank
welcome.
You, Joel. Yes.
Welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Great. So, our topic today is one of the big things. We were really worried that Skynet was actually taking over because we're doing this cloud stuff, and I've been telling Sarah Connor to stay hidden. But it turns out maybe that might not be the case, and you're going to make us feel better that that's really not the case. It is not Skynet we're talking about. We're talking about Project Cortex. And Project Cortex on here on my share screen over here is the site. It's just type in Project Cortex. If you type in Cortex by yourself, by the way, you will get brains, which, the zombies are using Google a lot of times, so that'll come up first. But Project Cortex will take you right away to the Microsoft page. But we're not going to go through and read all the stuff over here. We're going to talk to Joel about Project Cortex because you've been talking about it a bit, right? A lot of people asking you about it, or are you getting a lot of people making you the expert at it maybe these days?
Well, let me tell you, Project Cortex is definitely a passion of mine. I've been following it since it was a code name. Some people will probably even wonder, is Project Cortex the code name, or is it going to be called something later on? And actually, the product name is Project Cortex. It did have a code name that I don't know if we talk about that yet. But anyway, that's actually the product name.
Wow.
And I've been focused on it. I've been part of the charter early access of it. So I am under NDA. So there's probably some questions you could ask that I wouldn't have the answers to, or wouldn't be able to tell you the answers to.
Okay. So that's true. Or maybe we'll release this after all that stuff comes out, maybe, just in case. Just saying.
Nice. But I have been one of the ones who has been very willing to share. I think it's a game changer. Absolutely. I think it actually shows the value of the Microsoft Cloud even that much more. And in fact, what I see as well is that people need to be prepared for it. And a lot of what I've been talking at SharePoint Saturdays and Microsoft 365 events, and I've even got a couple of different webinars that are coming up in the near future. One that's absolutely just focused on straight up preparing for Project Cortex, and another one where I dive in on the business value. I think a lot of people have been kind of confused. What is it? They understand it's some AI behind the scenes, or it's built on Microsoft's AI platform, but there's absolutely a lot of confusion about what it is, even though Microsoft announced it at Ignite last year.
Right.
And I think it's going to change people's worlds. I think it's going to generate a bunch of new jobs as well. And the way we do security, the way we do tagging, the way we gain insights. Even what's fascinating to me is you could say every single workload in Office 365 or Microsoft 365 is going to be touched by this product. In one way or another, and even Azure. And essentially, it's something for everybody. I think that it's important. It touches every end user that when it gets fired up in a tenant. I'm not saying that everybody's going to get it on day one, but absolutely every company should be aware of it and be understanding what's happening, what is it, how do we prepare for it.
Right.
And even just kind of getting on top of the fact that I even gave an analogy to a customer yesterday who was trying to understand it, that it's like horse and buggy to automobiles, to the Model T. I do see this is we've been going around on buggies with our manual tagging, and we have the ability to go into a machine, get automated.
Whoa.
And my understanding is it's not just Microsoft based data sources either, right? we can have adapters that can bring in data from other places, and we can gain some of that tagging through them as well. So it's really for the full enterprise. It's not just, for those shops that are Microsoft only.
Let's say that the connectors do allow you to index data outside of your tenant. Okay. The UI where it does the highlighting and these kinds of things is part of Office. Okay. Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint, wow. Teams, Yammer. Those interfaces that people are using every day, those productivity tools, are actually going to get enhanced by this.
Oh, wow. So it's a little bit scary. So I remember when I came back from Ignite, of course, I was excited and everything else. And next thing you know, my IT guy goes to me, one of my IT guys, because I'm doing a lot of IT guys. I have lots of them, right? They come out and it's like, hey, this thing is really scary. When is it going to hit? And how much is it going to cost? Is it going to be free? What if I turn it on? Because I think there was this thing they were asking folks, say, you want to try it out in your enterprise, click this link and you can join the program. And they were just worried that, like, for example, with Power Virtual Agents, hey, it was beautiful and free, and all of a sudden, sticker shock, $1,000 a month if you want to continue. And it's like, oh, we're really scared. It's like, well, no, I don't think that's quite the same thing. For one thing, that was a particular product, a particular licensing scheme, and I'm on the licensing bent right now. But that was their scary thought. If this is going to suddenly appear, is it just something that's going to appear in our Office, say, tenants, or is it something that we have to opt in for? And if we're opting in, is it something that's going to be suddenly an arm and a leg, or something that's going to, how do we say it, fit like a glove like the rest of the Office products? Like when they updated Teams, or when they brought in Teams, right? They didn't charge us extra when they brought us Teams, and we're like, oh, beautiful, we have a lot greater functionality over here, and they didn't really charge us. They made it actually useful, right? So question is Cortex like that?
That's a very good question. The guidance has been that this is going to be a premium service.
Aha.
We are in private. Well, one thing to clarify is we are in private preview now. Mm-hmm. A public preview will be coming. And then we're going to have the general availability the first half of 2020 is the guidance that we've gotten from Microsoft.
Okay. So the premium service, essentially the impression was you can try it, and if you don't like it, it can be just turned off. And they were worried that if people, and I think one of the IT guys said, well, I'm really worried that people might like it, and all of a sudden it costs a lot. Now, what do I tell them when I have to take it away because I don't have budget right now? It's like, okay, it's all about the money. All right. But why would they like? Well, the question is, if they like it, maybe it's not because they like it because it's neat. They like it because it's actually giving them ROI, giving them value, giving them something. So here's the thing. If you were to make the pitch to say it's probably going to be worth the money, besides the fact that we're going into a car from a buggy, all right? But buggy, it'll still get you there in its own way. But why would you want to go into that newfangled car that's spitting out smoke from the back versus, the horse that I have to sweep up after?
Sure. Let me position that a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll position it from an AI perspective. Essentially, you've got the supervised and the unsupervised aspects of AI. Aha. You have this thing called the knowledge center. This knowledge center is built on top of SharePoint Online. Mm-hmm. This is a center where it adds. This is where you can see your topics. So essentially, you get visibility into those things that have been approved. So AI is reasoning over your data. It's looking at the terms, the words people are using, the projects, the customers, these terms that it recognizes as things that are of more value to the organization. It's organizational knowledge. I like to think of this as building out an organizational Wikipedia, but designed by having AI be able to do this. So it does it through machine learning to produce topics which have definitions, there's acronyms, there's a set of experts, of people who are uploading documents that relate to this topic. And what it's doing is it generates these topic cards, which are validated by humans. You're having your experts validate these topics, If there's anything wrong with them, they can update the text or remove files and so on. So there is moderation essentially, or validation of what the machine is doing and recommending. And it even builds an ontology of relationships between the topics. And as it learns and reasons and gets smarter, it's building a full-on network between your files, your meetings, your conversations, the video, the audio, projects, sites, teams, conversations, Q&A, and so on. So it essentially is building this very valuable knowledge base that many companies have. This is the pie in the sky. It's the dream. They wish they could have something like a Wikipedia for their organization that allows people to quickly ramp up on that knowledge. And what's so fantastic about this is it doesn't have to even feel like a new destination. Those topics that are generated are highlighted in the conversations we're having every day across email, our conversations in Teams, our conversations in Yammer, our files in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on.
Wow.
And
that's go ahead, Larry.
Something exciting that you said that I didn't get, just by looking. So I'm glad we're having the conversation. It's curated, right? There's both a managed. We're not going to have to worry about local minimum or maximums because there are humans involved that can help, kind of push the AI into the right places, into the valuable places, as opposed to just, the AI likes daisies for some reason. We don't have to worry about that. We just tap it a little bit and get it working in the right direction. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's the machine learning aspect of it's going to recommend things, and you're going to say, yes, we want this and more of this, or no, this is not the right path. And it's going to be looking at your taxonomy. It's reasoning over your files. So what's fantastic about this is it's very much about organizational knowledge. What is in the knowledge center of one company is absolutely going to be different than another company, even within the same industry, because you have different projects, different customers, different terminology, and those terms, which essentially become topics and get their own ontologies and relationships. And it really tells you, it's a reflection of what's happening inside your organization, what's inside of your files, what's happening, popularity, trends, and users themselves actually are interested in following topics. And you've got the experts that are related to topics. So imagine you're somebody who's new in the company, you're thrown into a project. You not only want to learn everything you can about that project and the files that are related to that, but you actually want to understand the projects that came before it, after it, on either side of it, that are happening in parallel, and being able to essentially connect with the rest of the organization. What are the departments that are working on the same thing, but in their own little silo? And this idea
who can
of
I ask about
of
X or
information
Y
is
or Z?
yeah.
So my little example of the IT guy worried that they might like it a lot and they'll feel the pain when they get off it sounds like that isn't actually a very, very likely thing. If you got in this beautiful car, it's not just a little thing blowing smoke. It's Maserati going out, looking really cool, and the old Back to the Future feeling. And all of a sudden, you're back in the buggy with the horse. Okay, I can see that, where that would be very hard to disengage. And that's what their concern was. Like, I don't want to give them something and promise them something that they can't get. I guess what we're going to do is they're probably going to wait till eventually they know what it's going to cost. So that's what I told them. Like, at this point, if you're not sure, wait until you hear what it costs. There's
some customers who are like, they can't wait to see it, get their hands on it. They want to validate it.
Yeah.
And then there's those who are, okay, I'm holding back. I want to see how much this is to see if I can see it. But I think a lot of them are going to question, well, what's the business value?
Right.
One of my favorite business value kind of conversations as it relates to this is the HP quote from the 80s, where you had this executive who says, if HP only knew what HP knows, we would be 3 times more profitable or more productive, depending on which quote you're looking at. But that idea that, and the other one I loved, it was actually in a session I was, and somebody was like, oh, like the Borg. And it was like, oh, yeah, imagine if when you connect as a new employee, you could tap into the knowledge of the rest of the organization, and you were up to speed nearly immediately, and your thoughts are consumed by the rest of the organization and vice versa. It seems like, wow, that's kind of Borg-like.
It is.
It's like imagine if you were to create that neural network of the Borg. And I understand that there's some negative aspects to the Borg, but just talk about productivity. If you could just really tap in of all the individuals doing their own things, it's kind of like the anthill or the beehive or these other analogies of just increasing the productivity, the knowledge. It goes back to those days of the Yammer work in the open kind of concepts of, if we could only more easily connect with knowledge in the organization. And here we are building out a knowledge center that AI is building out. And all we have to do is nudge it along a little bit. Now, the other side, so I mentioned there's kind of 2 sides to this brain.
Of course.
There's this other side, which is the machine teaching side. This is absolutely the supervised side of the world, where we are actually teaching the machine. And I think from a SharePoint perspective, for many, many years, we've kind of seen SharePoint as a collaboration, or it's focused on storage. It's the next generation file share, blah, blah, blah. Well, the content center is for structured and semi-structured data. And the idea is that you can actually train and build AI models based on your own content, and having it actually extract data, image recognition, it can, the speech to text type stuff, where you're actually pulling out content. And especially with structured content, these are customers, this is an invoice, this is a statement of work. And you can imagine if it's pulling out that data and putting that into columns inside of a library, a modern library, then you're actually getting much richer content that's actually going to boost relevance and ranking and your ability to retrieve that data. Where today you have a bunch of scanned content and there are a bunch of PDFs who have a last modified date. Now you've got that same PDF, but you've got 10 columns that are populated based on customer, project, invoice, account, amount, blah, blah, blah. Much richer. And that enrichment also gets pushed into graph across all our files. So basically, you could think of it as a schema update to graph, where we now have way more signals about our knowledge that connect experts, topics, people, meetings, conversations. This entire extraction and enrichment happens as part of the indexing and part of this machine teaching activity that happens on both sides of these worlds.
You bring up a couple of important things, and especially want to mention to folks, because this is like the latest tech, and it sounds really great and everything else. Back in the day, they had tech that actually was all right, and we're bringing up SharePoint. And I'll give you the example of SharePoint Search when they brought Fast in and all that. And people were thinking, I get that, and I install it, my search should work, everything should be fine, forgetting that the whole point of it was they gave you something that you can configure the heck out of, so you could make it work for your organization. The problem is people put it on, never bother to install it, and then they wonder why search sucks. It doesn't give me anything. It's like, well, did anyone do any look at your crawling or set up your stuff or do some filtering or all the little tools they give you? Did you touch any of that? Oh no, it's supposed to just work. Well, how is it if you got the thing and you didn't do anything to it? It's like getting a car and not putting any gas in it and wondering why it doesn't run. It's like you got to get gas. The same thing here, though. It sounds like they're not just throwing an AI at you and here, have at it. All your problems are solved. I think this is very important. Just like the older technology, I think this is also part of the other fear of the IT. It's like, we're going to put it in here and nobody's going to care to to use it, right? As like, or to train it. When it asks you, hey, was this okay for you? You know how like some people dismiss that box where they say yes or no? They don't even bother. They say X. I don't care. I don't want to give any of my information out because I really don't care about it. This is for folks that if you care about your businesses and you're following through, and this happens to you, this is probably why it's a good idea. It's premium. Hey, if we're paying for it, you better use it. Because I remember that CIO directives are, we're paying for this, so use it. You know, if it was free, everyone's like,
Well,
you know, we
and
might use
having
it, might not.
having an extend graph is important too, because graph is the
Ah.
new. I mean, that's the center of our universe, or it should be. We're not using it enough yet, and this is going to be, you know, one more reason for us to really start digging in
and understanding how that stuff works, all the
right.
tools that are on it. I mean, right now we're building our own AI tools that are doing similar things. I understand why it should be premium, because just understanding just the billing model for AI and machine learning is that by itself is like, okay, there's so much there. And here's a tool that's literally sounds like it's doing 1,000,000 times more stuff than I could imagine doing with 2 or 3 AI projects or a chatbot or something. This is far and above. It's like, so that's why I guess the fear of the IT guy also, it must be very, very expensive to do.
And that's why you're in witness protection right now, Ralph, right?
I'm witness protection. All the IT guys have been saying, hey, don't give us up. It's like, well, okay. I'm in witness protection thanks to my little piece over here. But the key thing over here is, again, to explain why premium is good and why not to fear the changes, and to know that the users maybe are, let's just say, the users are probably not as apathetic as you might think they are. All right. Well, when they start seeing something that starts giving them value, they're more likely to, it's its own thing. It builds on itself. They're likely to use it. Like the cloud.
They're the two sides of it, right?
Yes.
They're the two sides. There's the side that just works.
Yeah.
You know? And that, I think Microsoft is doing a lot better job of kind of coming in with ideas already in place so that you get value immediately.
Right.
But then if you want to take it to the next level, you're going to have to do some configuration yourself. So
indeed. And I guess the best thing that I like about it, like this is the ultimate cloud product in the end. Right. This is the ultimate cloud. It's bringing that knowledge that's already there. I keep telling people, why are you reinventing the wheel? What if the cloud came to you instead of me tapping you and saying, you shouldn't be reinventing the wheel? They won't listen to Ralph. But if the cloud came at them, they're like, I think the cloud has 1,000,000 more times more credibility than Ralph.
Imagine even 10 years ago if Microsoft would have tried to take on a project like this. Where we're saying, it's going to touch Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, OneDrive, like all that stuff, plus SharePoint.
Yes.
And it's going to live in SharePoint, but it's going to highlight stuff in Outlook. It's going to in your instant messages, when you use the certain words, it's going to light up.
Right.
And, we're going to enhance your security, because we're going to do allow you to have some stuff related to workflow, where we're going to enhance your ability to do compliance and labeling and classifications. Like it crosses so many platforms. It would be an IT nightmare to try and light up, okay, here's the update you got to do for Exchange. Oh, by the way, you need to do a schema update in AD, and you have to do this thing in this system, and on and on and on. And it's like, oh yeah, and by the way, if you start indexing your other things, it enhances this whole experience as well. You know how many enterprise search projects fail because people, it's too big, it's too broad, it's too wide. And here we have a cross-platform, cross-tenant, and beyond type of project that we're talking about being able to light up. Like that's just mind-blowing in terms of capability and the power of what this thing does. It's not something we could have done 10 years ago without a Herculean effort of across IT, everybody lining up to ramp up such a huge undertaking.
It's almost like 10 years ago, it would have been like putting together the Panama Canal or building something like that. And all of a sudden, just 10 years later, it is simply a matter of going, Opting in, yes.
Yeah, opt in.
Oh my God.
Opt in on
Opt in
365, and
on
it's
365 and it's there. Oh, can you imagine? We've been, by the way, in those projects with those crazy search projects. No comment, Will. I'm not saying which ones, but we've been on those kind of crazy. Like we want to do it all. We want to have the search working and just pluck out every kind of ability that's in there, and then they realize they don't have enough servers just to even make it run. And then the first update comes in, and exactly that. Everything went down.
Right.
Okay,
Or
everyone go home for 2 weeks.
they
Work
didn't
from
set
home.
up AD with any kind of a hierarchy, right? AD is just authentication. That's all they have. They're
Sure.
not doing any groups or, how do you? Yeah.
None of that
It's
existed
awful.
back then anyway. So like this is it makes sense. It's like Larry Ellison way back was promoting the idea of like the virtual PC, with on the machines, and that was just way too soon to come up with that. Now it's like we have virtual desktop just being deployed without question. Hit a button, you got a virtual desktop that's super powerful, does all your stuff. And imagine that with the AI behind it. Now imagine that with the AI that's already comes prepackaged to know what's going on and just needs your nudge and your touch, your industry, your personal piece to make that be smooth over. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, our work has helped a lot of the regular power users, because that's where I came from, the power user. I was the like the Excel guy who would like think I could tell the developers what to do. Oh, well, I know how to do this because I do it in Excel. And they're like, you Excel guy, But they realize like, well, if the Excel guy can like make the trading machine sing like the so-called mainframes can do, it's only because I'm closer to the business to hear what it is that's going on. The business now with something like this now has a real avenue to contribute without having to be, let's say, corralled into it. It just feels like it's much easier to get people to use something that feels more natural to them, like how to use all their apps, than to say, hey, let's sit you in a room and play a user group and give you a whole bunch of donuts until you reveal all the things you want to tell us. And then, of course, as they say, when you're torturing people, they'll give you whatever you want to hear. No, it doesn't work.
Yeah. So, Joe, that's all the good side. Are there any downsides? Is there any kind of like, well, you would think it would be good for X, Y, or Z, but really just don't even go there? Have you seen, there are times when SharePoint was misused, right? It was set up to do something that it really wasn't built to. And
right.
Okay, yeah, we've been on those projects, but
yes,
is there such a thing for this yet? Do we know it?
I think we don't even know all the scenarios yet for how this will be used. I think that this knowledge center and how it creates this new place where there's topics people can follow and how it'll kind of light up UI. I do think that there's going to be this scenario of the kind of, hey, watch out for it. Is the people, there's going to be two types of companies. Those who say, anybody can validate anything that comes in. Let's let anybody do the validation. And what you're going to end up with is a ton of topics. Mm-hmm. There's going to be things that probably shouldn't be topics that are topics. And topics themselves are even something that can be lifecycle managed and archived. And, they're pages. And so they do have a life. And there's you could say that topics can change over time, where there's people come in and out from an expertise perspective, but even the definition of a certain term or topic may change over time. So let's just say you're on that end of the spectrum where lots of people are just approving everything, and now you've got lots of words lit up inside of Word and your email and your conversations, mm-hmm. and the things behind them. Again, if this is that lackadaisical type company that just lets everybody do whatever they want, you've got lots of terms that are popping up, but also unvalidated content that people are just like, yeah, that's a good definition, or yeah, that's a good description of that. And so now you've got kind of this garbage in, garbage out kind of experience, where I do think the best practice or the thing to watch out for is you don't want this to just go out the gates and go crazy or go wild. This is something that I think you want to be somewhat cautious about in the beginning anyway of if you want to see the business value, you're probably going to focus on things like projects, customers,
That makes sense.
terms, acronyms that are related to your industry or related to your company. When this thing first starts out, it doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know much about your file. So some of those things that it may not recognize, maybe those aren't actually real corporate IP that you want to build your business around.
Right. So we've seen that, right, Larry? Places where we go into files and all of a sudden we find all their photos of their kids going forever and other things from the Boy Scout troop, this and all that. It's like, hold on a second. Are these the files that we're talking about? Oh, I don't know why those are there. It's like, well, yeah, I know why those are there. You don't have to tell me. You have noise, a lot of noise over here, and you're wondering why and this is just with regular search, right? You got a lot of noise going on. And the whole reason why it needs to have, let's just say, a little bit of forethought is because noise begets noise. And of course, once people see noise, they're going to be like, oh, this sucks because I just get noise back. Well, in fact, the internet was like that for a while. Right. The internet itself was noise until they sort of started cleaning up with the algorithms. Google and the rest, the secret why of their success was they sort of started doing this algorithm piece that made sure that noise didn't just come spewing at you like it was coming out from before. There's almost like a date I can pick, 2003. Just before that, search was like, and I was getting crazy. And then all of a sudden, it started getting a little bit more clearly curated. I mean, ads notwithstanding, but clearly curated. So you didn't get the nasty sites suddenly showing up on the top all the time. Not that it cared, but that's the thing.
Early on, even from a perspective of, talk about SharePoint.
Right.
Before SharePoint comes in on the scene, you have a very curated search experience where it's just approved pages that are the corporate pages, and enterprise search is just focused on the top of the pyramid, just the intranet pages.
Right.
And people knew how to find stuff. Then you added SharePoint Team Services, and we're talking, way back early 2000s, early portal server stuff. And now you've got masses of files if nobody's curating that or training it or giving it any kind of boost or ratings or ranking, now all of a sudden you've clouded up all those pages that essentially were handpicked. Right. Now you've got hundreds of thousands of documents that may be a dozen years old. And especially back in those days, age wasn't necessarily a major indicator as to whether something was relevant or not.
Correct. Yes. In fact, we've seen that. I'm seeing that when I go into migration situations and they're wondering why this stuff shows up and why it doesn't happen with the new bits. That's exactly it. It's like you have results over here that are like literally 6-7 years old. You're about to migrate and move these documents. Are they even relevant to move forward? It's like a little bit of cleanup, just a simple migration thing. Do you want to take this with you? If you are, well, here's what you're going to have to do when you get there, because otherwise that experience is going to follow you through. Maybe, of course, with Cortex, it might help a little bit.
Let me take Cortex, go for it.
Go ahead. Oh, no, I was just going to say curation is a big thing, right, early on, and then also timeliness, making sure that we keep our documents up to date and we watch for aging out of documents. So you were going to say?
Yeah, what I was going to say is the other side of that best practice, or the thing to watch out for, is the extreme opposite, where you've got somebody who doesn't really know the data, isn't an expert at it, and they're responsible for approving what goes in, and they're being overly conservative.
Ooh, yeah.
And so you're not seeing value, but it's because you're not getting topics that are relevant to the organization, where it's so hardened or so locked down, you're not even letting the machine do its learning and build those relevant ontologies of projects and customers and topics that are relevant to the organization, your acronyms and so on. That corporate knowledge does need to get built out, and let the machine kind of help organize it and build out that knowledge center.
Got it. Okay.
We're trying to find that It's like
Yeah.
the Goldilocks zone.
Yes.
The Goldilocks, for some reason, always knew the best bed, the best soup. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's somewhere in the middle.
All righty. So, by the way, we didn't really show anything because if you think about it, what would the experience of this be? It's sort of like, how do you say it? Unless you know the data, there's no way to know it's actually working. You know it's working because it works for you. You're doing something in particular, and all of a sudden you start seeing stuff that you never saw before in search or in like when you go up and you open up your Edge or your main SharePoint screen. And like, remember Delve, right? Delve will give you like, here's some trending documents. Here's some people you might like to see. And that's very, rudimentary. This sounds, of course, much further. It sounds like you would know it when you see it, as opposed to here's an interface that says, in your face, I'm Cortex. I'm in your face. I can see this. Is there something people can see? I guess it's how do you demo it, right, without knowing data? The closest thing I have, the one that I saw in Ignite that was easier to demo, was the learning of, say, things like, hey, here's what invoices look like. So here's a SharePoint list, and these ones are tagged as invoices. So let me send you some invoices again. And all of a sudden, the AI says, hey, I tagged these as invoices. Am I right? In fact, wow, you're right 90% of the time, except for this. Let's do it again. And then, oh, now you're right 100% of the time because you just learned what an invoice looks like. An invoice looks like as far as like maybe getting name, address, price, and the usual pieces that you know. That's the demo that I recall seeing. It's hard to, how do we say it? It's hard to contrive. Or rather, it's easy to contrive, but you can't tell if it's real or fake because I could fake that in 2 seconds. Well, not 2 seconds, but with some apps. But to make it happen for real, it's like, okay, nothing up my sleeve, literally, right? Here's you've never seen this SharePoint document library before I swear I've never seen these invoice files before. And all of a sudden something happened. That's really hard. If there's a way to demo that each and every time, it's like a demo site or something, that would be really cool, actually. I don't know. Am I giving some ideas from Microsoft on how to sell this or something?
So there, if you go to aka.ms/Project Cortex, down, you'll see there's podcasts, there's videos, there's a little section there where there is demos, and there's a clickable demo that will guide you through both the experience of like the client, of like how it lights up in Outlook, how it lights up in a SharePoint Modern page, and yes, Modern is a key aspect of that.
Right.
And then there you go.
Yep.
A little bit further down. Keep going.
Let's keep going. Check it out right here, folks.
Go. So don't be afraid to keep scrolling because the demos section there.
Oh, look.
There's a click demo. The first two are basically clickable demos. The first one is the Content Center. The second one is the first one's the Knowledge Center. The second one's the Content Center. So essentially, you get the invoice example there where you're organizing knowledge, where it can show you how it does.
Oh, there it is.
Extraction.
Yes. That's the one. That's the one that I saw. That to me, when I saw that, I just remember my days when I used to be in accounting and doing all that. And one of the things that we did ages ago was, well, not that we did scans or anything like that, but we used to get the invoices and enter them into an Excel sheet, and then the rest was history because it got entered into the AS400 in a special way and all this stuff. I automated it to an extent that we were able to reduce our accounts receivables, emails, and all that great stuff. But imagine this, right? Wait, it says begin. Look at this. Check it out. Yeah. You can download the demo talk track, or you can begin the demo without guidance. Or look, there's
click that. Just click the first one. Yeah.
Oh, check it out. So it's easily set up.
So notice at the top it says Content Center. So here we are in the Content Center, and I mentioned that the Content Center is all about the machine teaching side of things.
Indeed.
Where here you're going to create a new library in the Finance Content Center.
So I'm clicking, and it says, okay, create this. Okay, I know how to do that. Check it out.
Now notice this is AI Builder. So it is absolutely integrated with the Power Platform. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to create a model.
Yes. AI Builder. That's an add-on you can get now and today. But this is Forms Processing. Forms Processing Preview. Check it out.
Yeah.
I've added a name for a new classification model, and we can create it now. Okay, we're going to make
So
the model.
Yeah. So basically, we're going to train it with somewhere between 5 and 10 sample documents, so that it understands the layout of the document. We pick a few of them.
There's some POs. Okay, great.
Yeah.
We automatically pick the POs. Imagine for the folks that used to do this stuff by hand. Upload documents. Okay, here's all my documents, and they all look the same because they're nice POs.
Yeah, just a nice little sample of them.
All right. The system is ready for us to select fields using our model.
So it takes a while for it to kind of churn through and look at them and inspect them, and then it highlights the things that it understands across this template.
Check it out.
Essentially says pick the fields and columns you want. So you're selecting a bunch of these fields, like vendor and date and ship to. So you got your customer, you got your totals,
there we go.
and so on.
And look at that. It
Right,
recognizes.
There's those columns.
Yeah.
Fields.
There we go. And now it's
a summary of your model of what it's going to be. You've essentially taught it what fields matter and what essentially those fields you want in your library.
Okay, so my model is trained. Go to your model is now it's training. That's not training.
So it can take a few
just
minutes.
saying I'm ready. There we go. Takes a few minutes. Okay, when we're done, and it's the demo, so it should be done quickly.
That's all right. Then
you're
going to
now to the model is ready. Publish. I publish you. Oh, look at this flow. They're still calling it.
You can actually kick off a flow. So as an example, imagine POs that are in this region go to these people. People in these POs in this region go to this other people. So you can basically kick off your flow based on what happens inside of.
Check it out, and with flow and everything else. By the way, they still call those flows, but it is Power Automate. But that's
flows from Power Automate.
We're back in the library.
Now we can actually add the POs in there.
All right.
So that was just for training purposes. Now we add the documents. And it does all this really cool content extraction. You can see we've got the date, the PO number, the vendor number, shipping address, and so on.
Look at that.
And see this, I spent some time with Konica Minolta and Kofax and Effisoft and a lot of these like structured business documents. And SharePoint alone wouldn't do this kind of extraction.
No.
You could, but with when you combine it with something like Kofax, you could do that. Here, now we actually have models that can do this extraction for us right inside of Project Cortex, which is baked into, it's a premium service in a sense of in our tenant in M365.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, and now you can see here we are looking at the document. Instead of just seeing that doc, you can actually see over on the right, we have all those properties in that line up and match the document.
Oh my gosh, that's why they let InfoPath go. That's like InfoPath's like, they saw this coming. Or actually, what happened was this thing is probably very so smart in the future, and it went back in time and it said, I'm going to kill you. And it came back to the future. Yes, I am right.
It is. This is going to do for search. You're uploading documents. Now it can extract content out of those documents. That's so powerful. Things like SOWs or POs or receipts or any kind of regular. And don't just think about it as documents. Think about this from a forms perspective. Those digital processes we have and what we could do, essentially. And it's starting over again, right?
Right. No, it's just starting over again. So it's going right.
You're gonna want.
So I get it. Oh, check it out. So I can go really fast and say, oh wow.
Yeah,
so it just brought me back in time.
It's a clickable walkthrough demo. Anybody can go do this. Yeah.
Oh, I can do this. I can do
data that's been pulled out. Yeah, you take the data that's been pulled out though, and instead of it being just in a bunch of PDFs, now you can throw Power BI in front of it and actually reason about those totals and reason about those shipping addresses. And,
imagine
should I have a
more interesting your charts and graphs and your analytics are going to be, because you can actually extract that out of your scanned content or your digital, what was physical documents can now be digital documents. And even then, even if it's in a PDF or something, we can actually get data out of it. And we're not just talking PDFs. This could be any number of different types of documents,
Right.
not just Microsoft.
Very cool.
And there's the stats, by the way, up front, and that's just the out-of-box stuff. So yeah, that's right. Now you have the Power BI piece, the other part of the platform, and then you have your dynamics. So if you're doing stuff like SOWs, you're doing stuff like contacts and other kinds of marketing events. You have your D365 infrastructure coming into play. Oh,
you might as well show the other one so you can see both sides of this brain. So you've just showed the content center. Now we should actually look at the knowledge center, and it is there. Just click on the left one. Yeah.
This one, the first one.
Yep, it's the first one.
That's the first one. Here we go. Ta-da. Okay, and we're going to do it without guidance or with guidance.
The top one.
The top one with guidance. Without.
Here
we go.
Yeah. So here we are in email. Notice we're in this is Outlook Online, and right in our email we see an acronym. You can imagine if you're a new employee, you're like, what is this? And your ability to just hover over it or click on it.
Right. It only just happened to me yesterday. Yes.
Yeah. And now we have our little topic card that essentially gives us, and we can follow this topic, but core is construction operations reliability. So we get a definition for it with a little description underneath it. We've got related resources and people and related topics, when the project started, when it ended. You can imagine it could relate to, you could have your Q&A there. That relationship of other topics is really valuable as well.
Look at that. It says give feedback right down there below it. Okay, then I follow it through, and it took me here.
Now here you are in a SharePoint Modern site, and we scroll down on this page, which is clicking that click to scroll.
Click to scroll. Okay, yeah, it is a curated demo, so yes.
Yes, and now you can see here we're looking at a SharePoint page, and we've got highlighted topics right inside of our content. So if you click there, you can see here's another topic card. When this time what we're going to do is we're going to actually click through into the topic card. If we click on it, it takes us to the topic page inside the Knowledge Center. So we mentioned those two centers. This is the Knowledge Center, which is kind of like our organizational Wikipedia, where we have the topics I care about, the topics that are trending. It's essentially our organizational knowledge.
Wow. Look at this. I'm glad I learned how to do cards.
Yeah. So here's this special place that essentially, for the most part, is actually driven by AI. Those cards themselves are essentially built by AI. They can be validated by humans, but essentially, or even created by humans. But the value add here is that it's gathering this organizational knowledge. It's quite powerful.
Check it out. Oh, look at this.
New knowledge web parts that we can add as well. So that page, the Knowledge Center pages are actually a place where we can actually add web parts as well.
Oh, because it's a SharePoint page. What? Okay, so we're back to the beginning. Check it out. All right, folks.
What you saw here in Outlook is consistent with Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Pretty cool stuff.
Across the streams.
Across Office, yeah.
Across the Office streams. Oh, the fun stuff. So this is what people usually, they come over here and they're like, oh, I'm scared. And then they forget that guess what? Just go down and go see the demos. Go play with the mechanics, play with the overview. We have articles, we have podcasts, of course.
So that Mont McDonald one there at the bottom is actually a reference. That's a case study. And the really interesting thing about their vision is this idea of connected thinking, connecting knowledge to people and people to knowledge. I really like that idea.
Wow.
That
Mont
idea.
McDonald had a SharePoint farm. There we go.
Yeah.
Wow. This is very juicy stuff, Larry. What do you think? So far, it's going to come at it.
Sleepless nights ahead. it's so interesting that now I'm going to have to go dig in and play and get a little bit more knowledge going.
What happened to my screen? Went black. I hope
we
that
can
didn't.
see.
It's not black on my side anyway.
Oh,
Yes.
my monitor decided to go to sleep for a moment, so I'm putting it. I'm waking it up, but that's okay. Don't worry, I'll edit that out. Let's see. So I'm just thinking over here. Wow, we went through quite a bit, and this is quite a bit to digest and to get through. In the meantime, there are a bunch, and with this posting, we're going to put some links in here. There's some webinars and blogs of Joel that we'd like to include with that posting. Or anything else that you have coming up, Joel, that we'll put up here?
Yes.
You know,
yes. In
we'll
fact,
definitely be
I'm going to
putting that
show
up.
you an infographic in its draft
Yes.
that I'm working on.
Excellent.
This one is called 7 Ways Project Cortex is a Quantum Leap. And I'm kind of brainstorming, but also looking at the Microsoft content to kind of build out, it's this empowering teams with knowledge and expertise in the apps you use every day, automatically connecting and organizing knowledge across teams and systems, managing, protecting content with AI, and so on. So basically, you have these kind of business value side to AI. And I've got 8 in there, so one of them I'm going to remove. Yeah. But you can kind of see here on the side as well, I'm kind of thinking about what are those things? If the challenges you were overcoming were silos, what does it do? Or if the challenges were ramping up employees, what is the value there that it actually helps you get faster on employee onboarding? Expertise finding, capturing the tribal knowledge or the tacit knowledge, the content enrichment and extraction for search, a lot of that kind of cool stuff.
Wow.
I'm also working on some visuals. Now these will drastically change, but I want to show you kind of just real quick a couple of visuals that I'm working on. 1 second. It is, yeah. So here's one slide that people, if they're watching this on the video, they can actually pause it. But it's a slide I put together around planning for Project Cortex, where essentially I broke it into 3 sections.
Right now, I think it's still showing the last one you did with the 8 pieces.
Okay. Maybe it'll take a minute to catch up. So basically, this planning section, I think people who are looking at, well, what are things we can do to be ready for it? What are things we can do to enhance it? I've kind of created this single slide concept of here's some stuff you can do today, such as doing cleanup, such as discovering where your enterprise data is. What are the candidates for what should be in your content center? Talking to those people about this project, getting them excited about it. Classic to modern UI. Modern UI is where those topics are going to show up. So the sooner you can get to modern UI, the more benefits you'll be able to take out of it. Maybe you're looking at search. Like a search project, you could be populating acronyms. Those acronyms absolutely would help seed the terms and the topics.
Wow.
Enabling Microsoft Search. So we're talking about getting search itself ready to go.
Actually, yeah, some people haven't turned it on. It's like, hey, did you turn on search? I thought it's on automatically. Okay, let's look at that.
There's some classification you could probably do ahead of time, because basically when you say, hey, I want to turn on Project Cortex, you could exclude certain places. So as an example, if you have sensitive content, you don't want to include it, your ability to say exclude these, well, wouldn't it be great if you already had stuff classified for the things you want to exclude?
Right. So yeah, the DLP stuff ahead of time. That's one of my things when I get into new clients. That when I show them the features, they're like, "Oh, there's so many features, we don't need them right now." I said, "Let me try to talk you into setting them up now while things are quiet before somebody says, where is it?" Yeah. Right. So this is the case of like starting to actually use the features will actually help you going forward. How about it?
Yeah.
Nice.
And defining ownership, is always good. Getting your experts lined up, figuring out who they are, your trusted user profiles. Yeah. That's a great list.
Right.
I really do feel like there's new roles here that most companies may not necessarily have these people who have this kind of specialty who are focused on these. You don't have to be a full-on data scientist to be able to be in the role of this Project Cortex resource, who is either doing the machine teaching or helping along with doing the validation. I actually think that there's a variety of different roles you could define on a Project Cortex team that are focused on organizational knowledge and taxonomies.
Wow.
And that new managed metadata that Ignite, they announced, was going to be able to support up to 1 million items. Enterprise content types. What are those documents or files throughout the organization that are really those golden nuggets, the crown jewels of the organization that you could be training this on to be able to find and discover and extract and enhance and so on.
Wow. So, I remember, Larry, that was one of your favorite things to work on, right? The content types, to manage the store, the term store, and all that good stuff. How many projects there?
No. Let's not go there.
And I think that's probably the case. A lot of people have some scars from working on those kinds of projects.
Yeah.
I think that this is one where it puts you front and center, where in the past, anybody who would work on managed metadata, you would be so deep in the stack, there would be very little, your ability to surface and get error is tough on those projects. Here you're basically coordinating an enterprise-wide effort to be able to say, this is our taxonomy, and all organizations could take advantage of it as the machine essentially is doing the tagging and doing the extraction and the enrichment process.
Wow. And the value is shown, right? It's front and center because you see it surface through all of these new ways. Whereas before, I see you spent 3 days on this, or you spent 3 weeks on this, or you spent 3 months on this, but what do I get for it?
Right.
You find your documents.
Yeah, it's like, sounds like
going to show it
a lot of work, and then the littlest thing happens, and people are like, shouldn't that just work? It's like, well, we actually had to spend a lot of time to make that happen. It's just, that's one of the big things. Here's a very interesting thing. We started on the top of the hour, near the top of the hour, where we said there's actually AI is actually going to create jobs, and people think the opposite, right? Robots and AI take away the jobs. You literally showed at the end, so the people who waited for the money shot, was the fact that there's going to be actually a lot of work for a lot of people in the end of the day that wasn't there before. New roles, new things to do. When they were no longer having to do something manually, now they have something they can do to help the non-manual items get to work. So no one's losing their jobs. In fact, we're taking your knowledge, and instead of you doing something tedious, you're now essentially in charge of the tedious machine that does it underneath the covers, which is
absolutely
wow.
So I want to share a couple last things for you guys. Again, this is draft content. In fact, you can see just how draft this is. But these are previews of infographics I'm working on. You get kind of the cycle of AI reasoning and doing image recognition and content indexing and extraction and evaluation against the taxonomy and so on. Topics being auto-generated and organized in ontologies. Experts curating that content and determining what should be approved, with then those topics being highlighted in the tools we use every day, and the cycle continues.
Wow.
Over on the side here, we have the way that the humans themselves can actually enhance this process by both using the knowledge bot to recognize things in teams where you have a really good interaction. You want to store that in a topic. You can use the knowledge bot or invoke the knowledge bot to capture a conversation. You've got the Q&A inside of Yammer, where those things themselves as well can get tagged and pushed into Cortex. And then we've got the Content Center, which has its aspect of integration with AI Builder and Power Automate. And then you've got the search connectors, where you can pull in, as soon as those ship, we've got all sorts of SQL as a resource, data lake, Azure Data Lake, file shares, websites, Salesforce. There's a bunch of different things that are going to be, connectors that Microsoft's producing, plus the hundreds if not more than that, that come from the partners that then allow us to pull in that data into this experience of being able to be evaluated and enriched as part of the indexing and search experience.
Cool.
Whoa.
Yeah. Wild
Big
stuff.
load. Wow. I don't know. I'm not.
Here's one other model for you that I've been kind of working on. I really do see this world of there's the knowledge center and the content center. It's like people who are trying to simplify Project Cortex. I do think that if you can wrap your head around what are those two things and how are they different, that's really helpful. This kind of unsupervised versus the supervised. And then you get the reinforcement from the experts across the admin UX and the validation and the taxonomy and so on. Now, these are, given this is stuff I'm putting together, I'm not on the product team, but I've been wrapping my head around this and trying to kind of build models that I think will help the community understand what is Project Cortex, how should we approach it, how do we, help people understand the business value of these tools.
Perfect. And we'll definitely not only link to what you have now, but as you publish these, we'll certainly link to them and update our links, because these are powerful. They've got a lot of content really distilled. I like it.
Yeah. So you could say that these are things that are going to end up on the blog post. I'll push them into social media. But one of the things that my role in the community, one of the things I try and do is I try and educate, do webinars, try and stay connected with the community, both as an MVP, but also as just like, hey, Microsoft's releasing stuff all the time. How can we keep up with it? And
right,
I feel like my role has been kind of how do I simplify and distill this information, and infographics I think are one great way of kind of distilling that, and then trying to wrap that infographic around a webinar where I then take some concept and share it with the community.
Most appreciated. We are definitely beneficiaries of that education at this point. Sure. I know Larry's really happy because all those years working on that stuff, and now all of a sudden I had to get old before this stuff started coming out.
It's good value now.
This is value. This is ultimate value, and I'm glad we waited. We're glad we're still here to see it too. So, knock on wood. Stay safe, folks. That's what we're trying to say.
Yes.
But otherwise,
thanks for those who stuck with us this whole time.
Yes, absolutely. So
it's great to
connect. Thank you, Joel. Really, thank you for coming to share this with us. And I can tell you're passionate. So we'll be hearing more from you, I'm sure. So thank you.
Yeah, and let me say, I know I didn't do the best introduction at the beginning. I am a director at Proficient. This is, this whole content services area is something we're really passionate about. We're absolutely looking for customers who are looking to take on Project Cortex, and we're looking for customers who we can work with to help them as they take this on. So anybody, feel free to reach out. Absolutely.
Yes, as they say, there's going to be so much of that. It's not a case of we're all very nonpartisan here at the Cloud Talk Show, as we like to explain to people we cover all the different technologies whenever we can. But this is very important. It's like for us though, the more people that get there, however they get there, just get there. All right, we will gladly send you to Macy's and Gimbals or wherever you'll find the best Santa, as they say. Just get there, get the goodies, and get going, because that helps us too.
I think it's like you put it out there, and then people decide. They make their own decision of how they want to consume it,
Exactly.
And I absolutely, that's what I love about our community too, is like we all kind of play this role of being agnostic and kind of keep the cape behind, or the logos or whatever. It's we do what we do, and then we get the recognition, not because of who we're working for or whatever. It's we all put our value in, and then we're recognized based on our individual contributions, and it makes the community that much greater.
Well said. Well said. Okay, and on that beautiful note, I'm promising Larry that I'm actually going to turn this one around within a few days because I want to watch this back because I have to watch it again because I've got to remember what did I do? I've got to see it. Okay, so I will let you know, Joel, when this is online, and everyone else who's watching right now, we're probably online, so you know that this is like in the future, the end result. Thanks again,
Nice.
everybody.
All right.
Joel, we'll talk to you hopefully soon. And looking
Bye,
forward to your
everyone.
next webinar. I'm on your mailing list, I hope. And Larry, well, I know where I'll see you.
Yes, sir. All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone. Stay safe.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.